I don't know what I hate wearing worse, your face or your body.
John Travolta and Nicolas Cage trade faces and masquerade as each other in Face Off, the new thriller that's one of 5 summer movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
But I'm really Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune because we've traded faces too. Well, actually, I'm Roger Ebert. Well, decide for yourself. Jean-Claude Van Damme is a quarry for dangerous hunters in Hard Target, the first American thriller directed by the Hong Kong master of action, John Woo. The movie is an updating of the classic story, The Most Dangerous Game, about men who pay to hunt other men as if they were wild animals. In the film, Yancey Butler plays a young woman whose father is missing, and we know he's been tracked down and killed by the perverted millionaire hunters in the film, but she doesn't and wants to hire Van Damme to help her look for him. He's a Cajun from the bayou who's out of work.
I'll help you for 2 days. You'll pay me $217.
Soon Van Damme is hunting the hunters in a series of spectacular stunt sequences like this one. Of course, it's an unwritten rule in these movies that the bad guys are always incredibly bad shots. I think you kind of have to adopt a generic approach to a film like this. Hard Target is not very smart and it's not very original, but it is well made on a technical level. The stunts are impressive, and Van Damme makes a convincing action hero, and there are a couple of suave, evil villains played by Lance Henriksen and Arnold Vosloo who are very effective. As an action picture, it's well made, but it never becomes anything more than competent action, and I just can't recommend it for that reason.
I couldn't either, Roger. No. I mean, John Woo is a good filmmaker, and every shot here is an attempt to be very fresh. I think that, frankly, Van Damme is pretty wooden in the film, and I thought I was seeing, in many cases, something like one of these beer commercials, you know, with the great-looking people at the bar and the great stylistic stuff out on the highway and all that. And nobody,
well, that would be Woo's fault. I don't know. He does like gimmicks. For example, when somebody's about to be shot, he shows them and then he freezes them. Yeah. Then there's a closer shot and he freezes that, and then a closer shot and he freezes that. And these are TV commercial techniques that sometimes work and sometimes don't.
You notice the style. I think the reason is that you notice the style because there's really nothing of substance in the picture. And also in
this movie, lots more scenes where things get blown up real big.
You got that. The first film is Broken Arrow, and this is an action picture that's simply a lot of fun most of the way, even though it doesn't add up to much. Not a ringing endorsement, but I liked it. John Travolta stars as a top Air Force pilot who, unbeknownst to his co-pilot, Christian Slater, and their commanding officer, has masterminded a plot to hijack and ransom a couple of thermonuclear bombs that are aboard the stealth bomber he's assigned to take for a test ride in the Utah desert.
Palmdale's concerned about low-level gamma and X-ray diffusion screwing up the peripherals. They want to send up a couple on a pre-dawn run. See if anything glows.
61s?
Big ones. 83s.
Phew. Crowd pleasers.
After scuttling the plane and seemingly getting rid of Slater, Travolta meets with the money man behind the hijacking. He's played by Bob Gunton.
Look, Mr. Pritchett, I will deliver the weapons to the destination. But I can't depend, and I can't guarantee pay.
What if they don't?
Well, if they don't, the Southwest will be a quiet neighborhood for about 10,000 years.
Of course, Slater has survived the plane crash, and he joins forces with a pretty Utah Park Ranger, Samantha Mathis, to try to defeat Travolta and his crew. This is a typical high-energy scene directed by Hong Kong filmmaker John Woo in his second Hollywood feature. And here's more action as the fight between Slater and Travolta is complicated by the presence of the bombs.
Would you mind not shooting at the thermonuclear weapons?
Instead of a constantly intriguing story, Broken Arrow offers us colorful characters, Travolta and his crew, against Slater and Mathis. The action gets a little long in the tooth, I think, in a mine shaft and then later on a train, but director John Woo keeps things moving with enough fresh visuals to hold our attention. On that basis, I like Broken Arrow.
I didn't like it, Gene. In fact, I was quite disappointed in it, and you put your finger on some of the things I didn't like. It goes on too long.
Yes.
It's just one special effect after another, and it's boring because the story is not interesting, and the characters are not sharply drawn, and Travolta does not make a convincing villain.
He's a sweet guy.
He is.
And that's why he's a star. It doesn't work. You know, as you say this, I don't think I've ever done this on this show in 20 years, but I'm going to twist my thumb. I'm going to go just like this. Because...
I talked you into it?
Well, listen, it was a half-hearted endorsement.
It was.
Right at the top, I don't normally say half-hearted. And what am I really defending here? I'm defending some colorful action scenes, and they are colorful action scenes. And the rotor blade, I thought, you know, this is a lot of fun that we just saw. But really, I can't recommend it.
It's not up there. There is a craft of action pictures that's up in this level. This movie just doesn't quite.
I'm changing my opinion now.
I'm
do me
amazed.
one. No,
I'm amazed.
I know you're amazed. Do me one favor.
Yeah.
Look in the camera and say I was wrong about Cop and a Half. It wasn't a very good movie. Burt Reynolds. The only thing more unnerving than this picture is that my esteemed colleague across the aisle, so wise, so often, is the only major film critic in America who actually recommended.
You know, Norman D. Golden was just wonderful in this film. Okay, now I'm not sure I'm the only major film critic who didn't like it. I am sure, Rod. Because you're probably saying anybody else who liked it isn't major.
I don't know if anyone liked it, but no major critics liked it. No one that you respect.
Glad to see that whenever I like a movie that you dislike, you have that national survey that you
I'm aware.
Come on.
Here is the test. We'll have a double bill. People can go to see Cop and a Half, Roger Ebert recommending it, or Carnosaur, a funky, offbeat, wild science fiction film. Which one will they like best? Which one did you like best? Which one did you like best?
Cop and a Half.
He said it again, ladies and gentlemen.
And you know, I love the way you described that double bill, giving your own movie all of the wonderful adjectives and mine giving... no, I won't do that.
What?
No, I won't do that. Listen, I saw things in Cop and a Half that I admired.
That no one else did.
Okay, well, in any event, you've done a very good thing, and I've also done a good thing, too, by sticking to my guns. Okay, next movie. Cop and a Half. Face Off is based on a clever plot gimmick that works surprisingly well. It stars John Travolta as an FBI man whose nemesis is a super terrorist played by Nicolas Cage. Cage is injured and goes into a coma, leaving a deadly biological bomb ticking in Los Angeles. How to find it? Travolta is approached with the idea of transplanting Cage's face onto his own skull to fool the terrorist's brother into revealing the secret.
So you want to take his face and mine?
Borrow. The procedure's completely reversible.
He has the transplant, and now the movie gets really tricky because Cage, as the terrorist, comes out of his coma and forces the doctor to put Travolta's face on him. Then that character goes to visit the other character in prison.
You good looking. You're hot. It's like looking in a mirror, only not.
Both actors have fun imitating the other's characteristic behavior. Here, for example, Travolta acts as if he's got the cocky, arrogant Cage character inside of him as the terrorist in disguise meets the FBI man's teenage daughter, who, of course, thinks this is her father.
Papa's got a brand new bag.
Ow!
Meanwhile, the Travolta character, still wearing Cage's face, stages a prison break and pays a call on the terrorist's girlfriend, played by Gina Gershon.
I've said and done some things that made your life harder. I know.
How would you? When you left, you never looked back.
I just know.
And here's the scene that had to come sooner or later in Face Off, a face-off in which each man sees himself in the image of his enemy.
Oh, well. Plan B. Let's just kill each other.
But Face Off is not only a psychological thriller, it's directed by John Woo, the Hong Kong specialist in high-powered action, and it has chase scenes by land, by air, and by sea. I think it's a little too long, but I found the plot intriguing, the action inventive, and Cage and Travolta very entertaining as they toy with each other's star personas.
Oh, I liked it, too, on the basis of the performances more than the action sequences. And I enjoyed, and we've told the story here, I enjoyed discovering it for myself, I must say, that it kept getting more complicated. And as it gets more complicated, it is more intriguing, because you do have enough time. It isn't wall-to-wall noise. There is time to watch the actors and figure out what they're doing, and that I enjoy.
In all fairness to the viewers, we should say that although it was kind of complicated for me to try to set up those clips and explain them in the movie, after the switch takes place, you just always remember that whoever you're looking at, it really has the other guy inside of him, and then you can keep it straight. Yeah, no, but it sounds more complicated than it is, really.
Okay, yeah. No, I think people figured that out.
No good.
I'm just surprised that this story hasn't been told before. It's such a good high-concept story.
Well, movies like Seconds use some of the same aspects.
A little bit. But the matched pair is what I like.
Okay, Mission Impossible 2 knows for sure what direction this series should take. It positions its hero, Ethan Hunt, as the James Bond of the 21st century. Tom Cruise stars in a much better movie than the first in the series, fighting to save the world from a deadly virus. The Hong Kong director John Woo, a ranking master of action cinema, showcases Cruise in a streamlined, slicked-down 007 movie with less humor, more serious sex, and almost wall-to-wall action. There's good chemistry between Cruise and Tandy Newton as a master thief whose expertise he needs.
What are you doing here?
Think you're the only one who can pick a lock?
Huh. Not just a pretty face after all.
And a hazardous car chase between the hero and the heroine is required in a lot of Bond pictures. Director John Woo has a visual style that doesn't just speed up the action, but breaks it down into separate elements, so we get a montage of key moments without too much connecting footage in between. It's effective and exhilarating, and Cruise and Newton bring just enough romance and drama to hold it together.
Well, I think it's interesting that you made all these James Bond references, because this is not a James Bond movie.
No.
We already have James Bond. We've got Pierce Brosnan. This is supposed to be the impossible mission force. It's supposed to be a team of people, but it's not. It's a Tom Cruise movie. One of the reasons it didn't work for me, you knew this thing was going to be a huge hit. Tom Cruise knows it's going to be a huge hit. I wish he would have come up with a better script to fit the action scenes. Yeah, the action scenes are great, but so what? People know how to do action scenes. John Woo knows how to film them. Tom Cruise knows how to star in them. And you mentioned the chemistry between him and Tandy Newton. I didn't see that happening either.
Well, you know, of course it's just action scenes. You know, it's June. I think people want to go see a movie like this at the beginning of every summer season. And, of course, it's just Tom Cruise and not a team, because what they've done here is simplify it. They're looking for a franchise.
Then why call it Mission Impossible?
Well,
I mean, if he wants to do a super spy movie, he should do a super spy. It's really more like Batman.
Yeah, but it's his Mission Impossible. He's given the mission. He does it. He's the hero. He's there all alone on the mountain in the first shot. He's there throughout the entire movie. And that's the way I think this series is going to develop. It's going to forget the rest of the team, forget the TV show, and be Tom Cruise as James Bond for the 21st century.
Well, they should call it Mission Piece of Cake, because he's such a cartoon superhero. Nothing bad's ever going to happen to him.
Oh, come on, you enjoyed this movie, admit it.
I enjoyed certain parts of it, but, you know, I was also uncomfortable with the Tandy Newton romance, because he meets her, he sleeps with her, and then he says, by the way, on our third date, you got to go back and sleep with your ex-boyfriend.
Which is right out of Notorious.
Yeah,
Cary
but
Grant and Ingrid
it's just kind of creepy. The whole thing was creepy to me. Yeah, the action sequences worked, but I think Tom Cruise has the clout, obviously, to go to his scriptwriters and say, give me more of a story that people can carry.
Well, of course, if you want more of a story, go back to Notorious, where there's a lot of poignancy involving the fact that the woman does what the man she loves asks her to do in order to save her country and so forth. Here it's more cynical, but then here it's 2000 and not 1946.
I'd like to see a more cohesive team effort if it's going to be called Mission Impossible.
And I think Mission Impossible 2 is pure kinetic adventure, and John Woo is a very interesting director, and you're wrong.
Well, that's interesting, because I actually think I'm right.
That is interesting. Remember, you can hear our reviews at ebert-movies.com.